Hi everyone, and welcome to today's LinkedIn Live hosted by The One Group, where we specialise in connecting top marketing talent with leading brands. I'm Kerry Roster-Turner, and my colleague Sarah Dean are diving into the power of personal branding, and we're joined by Anna from Midnight Blue as our expert speaker. Introduce yourself, Anna.
Hi, I'm Anna from Midnight Blue Marketing. Thank you so much to The One Group for having me on this exciting personal brand LinkedIn Live. I run a small branding agency based in St Albans, and we are all about connecting your business with your end client, understanding your purpose, delivering your story, and like really packing a punch with your business brand and your personal brand.
Just to let everyone know, it is a pre-recorded session, but we will be on hand in the comments to answer any questions that you might have as it goes on. So just drop them in there. So Anna, what is personal branding and why does it matter more than ever today?
Well, we all know what a brand is. A brand is sort of a gut feeling about a service and an organization. A personal brand is really the same about an individual. And as life gets busier, the social channels become more crowded, communication is just everywhere. So how do we get individuals to be able to stand out? And that really where it comes down to your personal brand. And I think it works really well for founders and people who work in their own companies. But I also think it's incredibly important for the individual who works for an organization. I mean, I always say, how long do you know where you're staying somewhere? What's your journey later on? What's your progression? So by building a personal brand, and that can be on LinkedIn or Instagram or even within your own communities that you create in person, you allow people to understand your personal values, what drives you, what motivates you. And then that allows people to connect and convert really into good relationships that stand the set of time.
Yeah, and we see that all the time in recruitment. People move from one company to the next. You never know when you're going to meet someone again that you maybe saw in an interview or saw their name on the top of the CV. But how can someone start to uncover what their personal brand actually is beyond job titles and CVs?
Well, I honestly, it can feel a bit icky in some ways because it's a really it's a piece of work where you have to really kind of take yourself maybe more seriously, like people do with their businesses almost. And you kind of sit down and you look at what your values are as a person and how do you want to be portrayed, and how do you want people to perceive you, hear your story, like what's your agenda, what's your narrative to build that community around you. So I think really being honest with yourself about who you want to be in this business space. I mean, if you take LinkedIn as an example of somewhere where people do build their personal brands and you look at content that connects and then content that probably is very scrollable, is things where humans show like truth and opinion, whether it be controversial or not, and there's obviously lines that people have to draw as to who they want to be and how they want to engage. But if you're just posting about what your company did rather than who you are, how you thought about it, how it affected you, what impact it had on you, what change it made you make, then it's very easy just to move past that content. So I think coming back to the question, it really is about working out what your personal brand's agenda is and how do you want to be perceived. Like if you're in a recruitment space, I mean, I always love the idea of like people driving forward to find companies that they want to work for, depending whether sustainability is a thing for you or, accessibility, social awareness, different types of really cool brands that just really motivate you. And I think by building personal brands and following those companies, engaging with those companies, you become on their radar and you get to understand whether you're the right person to work there or be part of their culture.
And recruitment has become more human. So why do you think personal branding in the recruitment journey makes such a difference?
I mean, I haven't worked in recruitment, but I can't imagine how many different types of CVs you see, and like this kind of like must feel an aspect of hamster wheel in some ways, you know, lots of the same structure, lots of the same, like I imagine when a different CV or a different point of view crosses your desk, that immediately makes you stop, possibly for good and possibly for bad, but it makes a change as you do that. And I would imagine bringing aspects of that personal brand into the recruitment process as an individual, whether that be an application for a job, or then you read their CV and you go and look at what their kind of online presence is and how they're representing themselves. If they aren't cohesive, there's an issue there, isn't there? You're like, oh, was the CV fake and they're not representing themselves as they should be? Or is the online presence not who they are? Or if there's no online presence and the CV is fairly flat, but the person coming behind you has given context and then maybe had some kind of movement online, it allows you to get a deeper understanding of how they would be in an interview or how they would fit with a company, you know, and I guess that's how these things impact that.
Yeah, that's true. I think a lot of the time we see a lot of CVs, and sometimes us or hiring managers will click through to see somebody's LinkedIn, and I think it's becoming more and more that people are including their LinkedIn link on their CV to their LinkedIn profile. So you're right, it's all part of the same journey and experience of getting to know someone, their CV and their LinkedIn tying really well together. But from the other side, how do you think hiring managers or teams can build their own personal brand to help attract the right talent?
I mean, it's an interesting question, because one is trying to apply a lot of like social media planning to people who may not want to. And I always have a kind of struggle with trying to force people to be on LinkedIn or to force people to put content out there. I really believe that if it's something that really you don't really enjoy, then we should be able to find other ways to present ourselves. It's just more complicated because it's a much more free avenue and there's a lot of people on there. So when I work with senior leadership teams around like building their personal brands, we always tend to start with a workshop really to try and get them to understand what their position is in selling or delivering on the company. And I think sitting down and looking at what other people are doing in the space and making sure that they are representing their company culture in the right way. I think looking at how you look after your teams, things that you do with your teams, you know, new hires, promotions, celebrations, you know, telling that piece of story of the company is a really important piece as a hiring manager, surely, because you want to get the right people. Or if you don't do that, don't pretend you do it. You know, that's kind of where I get to, is like, it's all about being authentic as to who you are. So I was always try and encourage people to do a culture piece in their company so that when they're writing their job specs, when they are looking at how to hire and how to engage, that they really have a point of view. Like if learning and development is something that's really key to your business, you know, let people know that that's what you do. Because I think that's, especially nowadays, if you're doing learning and development, a lot of the people I work with, when we see the hiring people, that's a big question that they're asking. So how do we get that involved into the narrative? Like, I really think for hiring managers, define why people want to work there and be honest with yourself. You know, be honest as a senior leadership team. Like if you're not doing a good job around building culture and developing that, understand that you might not get the best people because someone else will be doing it. You know, I think it's really difficult when if you're not paying the highest wage and you're not doing certain things, but you still expect your recruiter to deliver really great candidates. That's complicated, yeah, because candidates they have more choice now. They also have more exposure to job roles, to job specs. You know, LinkedIn is a whole new world of where you can find work and communication. I mean, you look at how certain companies are doing it. Hiring managers are just going out directly and putting out posts about, you know, I want a head of culture, I want a head of happiness, I want to, you know, all of these different ways of doing things. So if a hiring manager is not being honest and progressive about what their culture and offering is, then I think it's complicated for you guys and for the people they're going to interview.
And I think we've seen quite a shift as well on how people use LinkedIn, perhaps since COVID. Like, I think there's some more vulnerability and things like that being shown on LinkedIn. So it'd be good to hear your take on that side of things, you know, being vulnerable on LinkedIn. Is there any like unwritten rules, like when is it powerful, when you know might be oversharing? Like, yeah, what's your take on that?
I think it's powerful if you know that that's in your values. You know, and you're confident in the fact that even if you're putting out something controversially vulnerable, you don't mind if people are going to react a certain type of way because that's the story that you are telling. I think don't vent unplanned on any level of social. I think if you've got a strong point of view to make, take time to put that out there and understand the reflection that has back on you and your employer, if that is kind of the case. I'm a great believer that vulnerability the right way is a great human connector. I think generations before us have spent years not being vulnerable, you know, being the last car in the car park. Like, my mum was massive in recruitment. She used to be like, we used to like wait to be the last car in the car park. You know, it was really important that people saw them being there for a really long time. And, you know, she went through some really challenging times, and I definitely know that she was unable to have that piece of narrative at work. It would have been unaccepted. I think lots of those things are really important that we break them down. And I think a lot of those great things have come by people being vulnerable, being honest about menopause, you know, all of these different things that affect females, for example. Like, if we don't have people telling that story and being vulnerable, then we don't see the impact trickle down. So I think carefully crafted, honest posts with vulnerability at the core of who you are really valuable. I think venting, anger, trolling, commenting of a bad nature is complicated and not something that I would recommend. I think for me, the attitude that you bring online should be as positive as possible, even in vulnerability, and always should be kind.
Yeah, it's interesting because it feels like it's about being authentic, and authenticity is talked about a lot. How do you balance being authentic with being professional online? Is there such a thing as sharing too much?
Well, I think it depends on your agenda again. Yeah. Like, so if your agenda is to find new roles, let's say you're someone who's going to work for someone else and you're using LinkedIn as a tool to build your personal brand, and also to job search, to connect with recruiters, to do those types of things. I think one has to be aware that there's more of like a kind of holistic viewing of your platform. You might be of the opinion that if people don't like my content of this nature, then I am not the right person to work for them. And there's total validity in that. But you have to understand that that's something that could come from it. You know, I don't believe people should judge in that instance. But if you are someone on there who's talking politically, let's say, and you are going for a job and someone's looked at that and they don't enjoy public political conversations, that may have an impact on that kind of recruitment journey. So I just think you have to be aware of who the end person is for your LinkedIn or your personal brand. You know, is it just you? Like, as a founder, I don't plan to work for someone else. Mine is to develop my personal brand, to build Midnight Blue, to build relationships. But if people don't like my content, they probably won't enjoy working with me. You know, there's a partnership there in the way that I present myself. So if there's an aspect of maybe chaoticness to some of my content that they wouldn't enjoy, then maybe we aren't the right partnership. It doesn't mean that they can't enjoy the content, but they might decide, actually, I want a bigger marketing agency that's got more people that deliver this type of thing. I don't want to have that type of personal relationship. You know, that's something that's really important to our brand, and we have very kind of emotive relationships with our clients, and that's kind of a key to our business, but that's not right for everyone. So I think it's understanding the purpose of what you're putting out there, what the platform is, and hopefully from the other side of the coin, if you are looking at someone's platform and you're not sure about their content, but you really liked their CV, or you guys highly recommended them, for example, let's give it time to understand why that point of view is that point of view, even if it's a 15-minute conversation, just to kind of go, let's feel each other out outside of an online platform, because tonality is really difficult online, isn't it? You know, we've all read a message and thought it meant something that it didn't, or interpreted someone's written words in a way that they didn't mean them. So I think give people a chance. I mean, there's really, I don't know if you've seen the the I'm hiring, I'm desperate kind of thing that's gone on LinkedIn recently, and there was that lovely graphic designer. She put she changed the banner to kind of I'm desperate, and it was about her kind of like a job journey as such, and it's been really loved and hated, and it's had some really controversial comments, and it's had some really positive comments, and I think that's just a really great insight. To some people are very like, ugh, how could you put yourself out there like that and say that you can't find work? It doesn't show pride, it doesn't do this. And some people are like, oh, thank you so much for being so open. I can really relate to that. Like, I was unaware that this was so difficult. You've really opened up our eyes as to culture and recruitment. And like, as she's gone through her journey, she's continued to kind of share feedback that she's had from job interviews. Yet again, some always anonymous, but some people have gone like, ugh, you shouldn't be doing this. And some people have gone, as a hiring manager, that's really helpful because I understand how that landed when you received that email and did that. So I think it's about being definitive on your point of view and understanding that not everyone's going to like it, you know, and that's okay as long as you're happy with that.
And what is your thoughts on like humor on LinkedIn? Would you say there's, you know, a line there in terms of humor?
I mean, personally, for me, keep it clean. I think it is a professional platform in the sense of that's the agenda. You know, the founder of LinkedIn, it was for business people to communicate and to connect and to build business relationships and personal brand relationships. I think if you're funny, you're funny, yeah. So be funny. Like don't try and be funny if you're not funny. But
How do you know?
Well, I think you know, don't you? Like when you read, I think it's taking time on your posts, and like when you read a funny post, you know, it just makes you chuckle. Yeah. Then that person's kind of got it nailed. I mean, a great example. Who's the guy who does all the videos? Is it Rob? He does all the office videos in marketing. Oh, I'll put the link in so you can put it in the chat. But like, he just does these like absolute parodies of like marketing meetings in videos. And like, if you've ever worked in corporate marketing, like they just make you die. Like they are just exactly what you did, and he's nailed it. And I think he's gone on. I think he's like won YouTube awards and all of this type of stuff. So like, you know, his agenda was funny comedy based on corporate life. And so he made a purposeful choice about how his brand was going to be represented and has gone forward and done that. And his agenda was to be a top content creator in this space. So I think humor done well is always good.
Okay. Do you think there are any sort of red flags or common mistakes that you see people making when it comes to personal branding?
I think everyone's individual and everyone has to make their own choices about what they want to put out there. I think one of the biggest things I see is like people just don't look after their accounts. If you're looking at LinkedIn, for example, from a personal brand perspective, like, you know, you don't have to do a lot, but like every 3 months, maybe have a little look at it and see if it's up to date. And, you know, the amount of people like you'll find out, oh, you know what, I just did a piece of learning and development at the Royal College of Art. And I'm like, that was like, let's get that on there. You know, let's tell the story. I think my biggest, so I do a lot. I mean, I know we're focusing on LinkedIn and personal brand is beyond that, but I do a lot of LinkedIn workshops for chambers of commerce and big businesses. And I think my biggest learning is the lack of confidence in posting, especially in women. So my biggest worry and concern is that there's so many people out there who've got so many amazing things to say, but they're so nervous of that world that they don't. And I think that it's not necessarily a red flag, but it's, if you're struggling in your career journey or your business journey, these platforms can be really, really advantageous. And don't let your own anxiety, I guess, stand in the way of it. Like, seek help. There's loads of great education online. There's loads of great workshops, but like, try and utilize these tools. Don't just shut them down because you're nervous.
I've then spoken to quite a few people recently that have said that they feel like they're constantly selling themselves on LinkedIn. So what would you give as some like practical skills to stay, you know, there, but not feel that way that you're constantly in everyone's faces?
Well, I think a lot of that will come down as well to like, are you selling or are you building a personal brand? And is there a middle ground? Like, I can tell you, I can do a personal post. I did a post the other day about like, we were in Norfolk with my mum and my kids, and we were watching the seals. And it was just like a really lovely, easy post, had like 2 spelling mistakes in it, didn't even use any AI, like popped it out because it was just a lovely moment in my head. Like, it does 10,000 impressions, great, loads of lovely comments, loads of engagement, wonderful. I did a post yesterday about like how we make beautiful websites. You know, took me ages, wrote it on AI, made a graphic, did all of these things. I got like 51 impressions. Do you know what I mean? So I think working out what your kind of agenda is. Like, if you're selling product or services, it probably isn't going to do as well as something that's truly authentic. And also, I can only speak from like my audience or my client's audience. But don't forget, depending on the size of the business or the individual, like, how many people do you need to see it to engage with it? You know, and learn from each post. So if a post is too salesy, you know, look at it. I mean, ask AI, ask someone to their feedback on it, because sales posts, I believe, sit within company pages and then being pushed with personal agendas as much as possible. Like, selling is a challenge without added, because everyone's selling on LinkedIn, to a point, aren't they? So like, we're all like, whether we're selling ourselves or we're selling our businesses or we're selling as an individual to get a job or whatever. So how do you make that different to what's gone before? And what, I hate to bang the authenticity drum, but you know, what makes it authentic? Because otherwise I think you get lost.
How can people measure the success of impact on their personal brand? Is it all about impressions, followers, engagement?
Gosh, I don't know. I'm not a big lover of like follower count. It always makes me feel a bit icky. But it's valid. You know, the more people in your online communities or in your personal communities understand, have the opportunity to see or physically hear your content, to understand who you are and what you are. So I think one of the metrics that's always worked for me is like when you go like networking, for example, and then you like, people will like feedback on stuff that you've done. So I don't know, like I did a post about how much I hate Christmas like a few years ago, and like it's just been one of those posts where like at different networking events, like loads of women have always come up and been like, that's exactly how I feel about Christmas. Like, I can't, like, that is exactly it. You know, and no one's ever coming up to me and be like, I saw that amazing post that you did about that brand you made the other day. You know, I'm like, but so I think for me, it's about odd pieces of content that resonate. And I think for me that is vulnerability, because, you know, I don't know. I don't hate Christmas. Like, I'm not like some like Grinch, but I hate all the like pressures that come with it. I feel like a lot of stress around parts of it, and that is what I put in that post. You know, about spoiling the children, the money, the excess, the drinking, the eating, and I think for me that type of post helps me connect, and that's where I will see those types of followers, or not followers individually, but like people who, like you like and they like you, like friends, not followers. And also I think like building communities. So like what we do together with the marketing meetup, you know, having the opportunity to turn up once every quarter, building a community of people who like see you and engage with your friends and business colleagues and those types of things. Like, I think if you're chasing numbers, it can be disappointing and stressful. And I like one of the things I'll always say to my clients, depending on the size of the business, like how many leads do you need? Like how many businesses can you serve? Like, you know, talking to individual founders, sometimes they don't need that many at this time. It's obviously different if you're a product-based business and you need to like, or a tech business. We've got an app client at the moment. Like, you know, they need a really strong, like high-level engagement following strategy, and they will have to use influencers that have strong personal brands to drive back to the core of the business. But it's always really looking at the purpose of why you're doing anything. Really, I mean, that's always it. Like, so if you're trying to grow and it's not working, and firstly, what does growth actually mean, like to you or your business as an individual? Like, is growth connecting with more recruiters and putting out better content about who you are as an individual and why you're employable? Is your aspect of growth being a really strong senior leadership team, developing a culture piece and getting it out there? Like, without the reason and then the end goal, it's very difficult to like measure metrics.
I find that as well, actually. You know, some people don't comment or like, but then they'll mention to you, oh, really liked your post. So actually the metrics, you wouldn't have even known they'd seen it unless they'd have said in a conversation. So
I think also if you're posting about like a role and stuff, there's also like an aspect of someone who's either still working somewhere or still doing something. So it's not really type of it, like it's viewing content. It's more saving content, really, like where they secretly save because they want to come back later and look at it, rather than like, oh, this looks like a great job, I'm going to apply. Like, you know, not everyone's in that position all the time to be able to write those types of things. So, you know, if it's an aspect of that type of content, you just really want people to be able to see it. And then it's like, does one put spend behind it so it gets more eyes? Because really that's the end game. Whereas if it's your own personal brand as Sarah Dean and you're trying to connect with people who want to list jobs with you, then that's different types of content that gets out there to make those types of connections, I think.
Is there anyone that you think's doing personal branding really well at the moment? And like, what could we learn from them?
I mean, there's hundreds of people, millions of people doing personal brand really well. I mean, I think it really, yet again, will come down to who you want to follow. I mean, you've got kind of all of your kind of, I mean, I'm a big Diary of a CEO fan. It's really in like my wheelhouse of the content that I love to listen to. You know, so on the back of that, you then tend to follow quite a few of those founders and those types of things. But really, I mean, yet again, I think, I know it's a massive name, but to me, what Stephen Bartlett does is great. I love the way he recruits. I love the way he puts his narrative out there. I love the kind of understanding of culture beyond anything else. I love the energy that he gives back to his team. There's a girl called the Social Climber who worked for him for years, who I follow. I can't remember what her actual name is, but like she has great content. But she's more of an Instagram-led kind of content. There's stuff on LinkedIn. I like, I mean, there's lots of people, but really it's the end goal of like, who do you like? Do you know what I mean? Because some people will like, you know, like some people love the Kardashians and some people hate the Kardashians, and they're huge personal brands that do unbelievable things. But it's kind of who you want to be and who you want to be out there. I can have a think and put a couple of really strong links in when you put this out with people I think are doing well. But really it's more like, who do you want to be and how do you want to be heard? And I think you can look at what others are doing, but any too much mimicking will be someone else. It's got to be you. That's the whole kind of point of personal brand is who are you and what's your story and your purpose.
Yeah, and I guess you can't always be for everyone. It's about finding your community and the people that you connect with most that you're going to kind of...
Oh, completely. I mean, like, as I say, like, some people like friends, some people hate friends. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we all have, like, different things that we like. I was talking to someone the other day, and I was like, I'm talking about a Diary of a CEO episode, and he was like, oh, God, can't stand that guy. And I was like, oh yeah, cool. Okay, you know, that's your kind of where you want to be. Like, you know, some people like I love a Joe Rogan for like my husband. Like, I'm just like, oh, really? Like, you know, but he absolutely loves it. So it's where you connect on these type of, you know, I've got some friends who listen to like parenting podcasts, you know, there's that really funny one. And like, I listened to it and I was like, I don't get it. Like, it just doesn't like connect for me. But for them, they just absolutely love it. And then they loved that content so much they went out and they followed their Instagrams, and then they connected with them, and then they told that story to other people. And that's really it's almost knowing that your content is authentic enough that some people won't like it. That means it's different enough, because if everyone likes it, it's very generic. Like, who likes everything? Like, no one.
Yeah, and even if you like one person, you might not agree with everything they always say forever and ever. Like, people have differing points of opinion, but they can still be likable. But it can be quite like a nerve-wracking space to be in, and kind of building your personal brand. So for watchers, listeners of the LinkedIn Live today, do you have maybe one piece of advice that you would give someone that wants to get started but feels nervous or self-conscious about showing up online?
Work out why you're going online. What's the purpose of this personal brand? Like, plenty of people are living a lovely, happy life, not worrying about building a digital online brand. So if you don't want to do it, that's cool. But if you do want to do it, work out why you want to do it, and then just get going. You know, like, don't spend 2 hours writing a LinkedIn post or creating an Instagram page. Like, don't get in your own way. Like, no one is spending that much time thinking about you. That's one of the biggest things I would always say is, like, you know, I've got clients who'll be like, well, it took me 3 hours to write this Instagram post. I'm like, oh my God, like, it's a moment in time. Like, you know, like, as long as it's not overly controversial, which I can't imagine your first posts are going to be, just start getting content out there. Start like looking at what other people are doing. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Don't worry about the comment section. You know, biggest piece of advice ever: if someone writes something that you don't like, just delete their comment. Gone, forgotten. You know, don't worry about it. Like, don't sweat the small stuff as much as possible. Like, and as I say, from these LinkedIn workshops I do, it's really clear that people struggle to give value to their voice. And like, it's almost like, what if I post something and no one engages on it and it's nothing? And I'm like, well, it's okay. It's just like, it's not the end of the world. Like, it doesn't mean that you are boring and no one likes you or that. It just means that maybe next time we revisit something, or the content wasn't right for your followers, or it was a bad time. Do you know what I mean? And like, everyone was watching the Lionesses play football and you posted, you know, there's like loads of like different reasons as to why that's not working. And once you've kind of found your rhythm, you can start to look at your analytics and kind of make some more insightful choices around those types of things if you so choose to. But just, if you're sitting going how to start, just start and don't worry too much, because you're getting in your own way.
Yeah.
Some really great advice. That brings us to the end of today's session. So thank you so much for joining us, Anna. It's been great. And thank you to all the listeners as well. If you did want to pop some questions in the comments, we'll be there to answer them. So, or send us a direct message as well if you want to discuss further. But yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you. Bye.